Hi everyone. I'll just slowly kind of get into what we are trying to do today. I'm Shairi De. I'm an architect with almost 15 years of experience. I'm from Kolkata. All About Architecture is a platform. It is a AI-driven digital community for green building architecture. So it is at a stage where we have just started realizing where there is a demand in the market for different sustainable products which are coming in. There are individuals who are looking for sustainable alternatives, but then there's a gap in the market where there is too much of information and there is too little way or um, processes which one can follow to go ahead with sustainable choices. Whenever one wants to choose a sustainable choice, they may face up with multiple information which are self-contradictory as it may seem at times. At times, it may seem that like you do not know where and whom to go and talk out to. So we'll just take in what we are going to do today. We are going to discuss what sustainable homes are, and we are going to discuss what it is in definition of it, why we are moving towards it. The why is going to be a basic query form to it, and with that we will be kind of taking in the how we can go ahead with that. In a 30 minutes call, we may be able to kind of form the basic skeletal framework of what the discussion is, but detailing may not be possible. So, what we are going to do is, Ediksha, would you please share the Mentimeter link in the chat? Anyone can kind of if you want to kind of maybe type in the menti.com on a website, or just simply click the link which is there in the chat, which is a menti.com. There is one question in it: what is sustainable homes as per you as an individual? What does it mean for you? There are 4 points which you can mention. Just put it out there so that we, when we start off with the discussion, we have an understanding of what the different, even in this small group of people that we have, a small group of collective of people that we have, we may understand like what it means for the different individuals. If anyone is having a problem clicking on the link, please let me know, but I would really appreciate it if you can just go ahead and start typing in the 4 pointers to it. Idiksha, you may also want to take in the write up for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So for someone who has joined in right now, okay, we are getting quite a few people. So those who have joined right now, I would just like to reiterate, we have just started off with the discussion of what, how we are going to take ahead and what we are going to cover in this workshop. So we are going to cover what, why, and how we can go for sustainable building homes in this discussion. Before we kind of go ahead in the next round, would request people to kind of go into the link, which Idiksha, you may want to reshare it again in the group, which is a menti.com. You may want to just click on the link. There are 4 options which you may want to put into and share your views here. Does anyone have a query? Please do share. If there is any query or there is an a concern, you can simply click on the link. They would have 4 options to type in. There is no right or wrong answer. It's just about understanding how even within this small group of people, we may have a different idea of what sustainability may be. So that's all we wanted to do with this. Has it been done? So this is the live feedback of what you are typing in. If everyone is done with it, for 16, I think we'll have almost 16 of 20 of feedbacks. If it's there, we will go ahead with it then. We'll just give another minute. Uh, Deblina, you may want to kind of click on the Mentimeter link and put your idea of what a sustainable home is. Okay. Does anyone want us to stop, or we can go ahead with the discussion now? You may want to kind of say, if you want me to stop for a few more seconds, we can. We'll go ahead with the discussion now. Thank you. Um, okay, thank you so much. So we see that even in this small group of people, we find there are several definitions what we mean by sustainable homes as to be. Is it a surprise? I would not say it's a surprise. It is happening in this way because there indeed is a whole lot of jargons which are going on in the market where we don't know what sustainability means, and we have just started kind of trading our ways towards it. We all know we want to do good by the place that we live in, but we really don't know what way to go ahead with. So, in this discussion, what we are going to do is we are going to have an understanding in a small way of what sustainability is for people, and how we can take this discussion from there, and how in reality, as individuals, as business owners, as professionals, we can take this discussion forward. Very nicely, what happened was, if you had realized, when you had responded to the form, we found we had responded like how we are kind of joining in. We received a response from architects, we received responses from interior designers, we received responses from vendors, but there was a more basic chunk to it, which was from enthusiasts who also want to know about it. They want to kind of put it into their own livelihood, and they want to take it forward from there. For some reason, the main real estate sector, the housing part to it, has not yet realized the potential of there is the demand that there is in the market, and hence there is still a whole lot of confusion which kind of prevails up there. In this slide, you would see we have defined what sustainability is in a short, in a crisper way, which we will take up in a discussion in much more in the next few slides. So, sustainability, when did it start first? When did we start becoming more conscious? Like, when as a community we started becoming more conscious for sustainability? It is not very surprising to say that the sustainability as a concept started gaining traction or attention over the last few years. Over the last few years, what has happened? We have seen a huge population growth, which has resulted in a huge amount of demand. And for us, we have realized the resources that we are using is limited. I would take an parallel example. Suppose there's a family of two where we have sweets, 100 sweets, some friends have brought in for you. Two people would not be too much bothered to eat 50 sweets because it may last for over 2 weeks, and after that, some of it might go stale, and we really don't care too much about it. But what happens with the 100 sweets, you suddenly have some 40 guests coming in over to your house. We start becoming much more conscious. We become conscious because there is a limited number of sweets resources which is available there, but the users or the people who are going to have their sweet has suddenly increased, skyrocketed. And at that time we realized that our supply, the sources that we have by which we're using, is not unlimited. So that is the concept of resource efficiency. we talk about that is from where we gain the concept of resource efficiency. Earth as the place where we have the resources has limited resources, where we are looking to have good comfort, we are looking for a well-being of ourselves. But if we are not conscious about the resources that we are using over a period of time, it is going to become difficult for us to coexist happily. That takes us to the next part. What are the different resources that we are talking about? What is it that we mean by resources? It can be kind of identified or broken down into different spaces. We are talking about for the well-being, we may move for some other part. We have not covered the well-being part to it. Since the platform is about construction and houses and building of homes, we have concentrated on the resources that makes us that we kind of use while we are making a home. It might be material, includes water. It might be the land as a resource which we are using, on which we are building a home to kind of create on it. It can be an energy as a resource, because that too adds on to the waste, which adds on to the environment, that kind of makes it unable, like we will be losing out on the mix of carbon and the oxygen take if we keep on unnecessarily burning of fossil fuels. And the other resource which we have in our context, that is where all about architecture wants to kind of come in, is the community. That is human beings, professionals, individuals who are in this space, who are conscious and who can make the decision. And this over a period of time, when people work in synergy with each other, we can move towards sustainability. A bit more detailed part to it. Let me know if I'm moving too fast. I have a tendency of speaking too fast. So if I'm going too fast, please let me know that, because we have tried to cover a whole lot of idea in a very short time. So let me know if there is some problem or some like we are speaking too fast or the idea is being taken too fast. Stop me in between. You can ask me in the chat box. And we have also a feedback form which I would request you to give after the workshop is done. Uh, so when we talk about resource efficiency, what are we focusing on? When we talk about material, it comes down to the material choice which we are using. From there, we talk about we can use local materials, we can use newer materials which are much more efficient with other alternatives parts to it, or there are materials which can be recycled back into the system. So the choice of material is what we would like to focus on. When we're talking about choice of technology, it means the construction type when we are carrying out in our home. After we have chosen the material, we have to actually carry it out. How do we carry it out? There would be certain technologies. It might be using manpower, it might be using machineries, it might be something like a new product which is coming out, you want to use it in your platform. How does one identify whether that technology is the best in the market as on date? It cannot be an absolute in terms of like this is the best for today means it's the best for the next 10 years. There is a market which evolves, and we have to keep on updating ourselves to understand over a period of time which is it that we can use to move towards the next stage of sustainability. It can be about land use as well. Like when we talk about land as a resource, do we really think a G plus 20 is a good option? Or is it like we would like to have some kind of a singular building, a G plus 4 with some garden and the G plus 4 with some garden? That is part of the land use design. The garden may be a landscape space where you're making your vegetables. It's not just a green area. That is the choice that a person is making each time they're choosing to build something in that land zone. And that is where the resource efficiency concept for that zone also comes in. The next is the choice of energy. I think this is kind of understandable right now, but the choice which we want to work on with is really not there. The tools which we want to kind of work is not there. Choice of energy, when we talk about energy sources which are from coal, which are from other sources which are producing a higher level of carbon gases or the GHG gases, is not a good source to us. It might be the alternative, it might be solar, but is financially a solar a good option right now, or is are we supposed to wait for it? When we are choosing that part, that is what a person puts a thought or an effort to it. And of course the last comes in of the technology, for with that also the technology which we will be using. So we may want to go for installing solar panels, whether it's on a roof, or do we want to use a solar panel which comes in the form of a flower and it can come on the top of a lamppost. Whether that is a technological aspect to it. That brings us to the energy, the resource efficiency part of the energy part. And community. I would imagine like a where a population of 1.3, 1.4 billion of people stays, it's difficult to understand what as an individual professional, we are trying to do unless and until there is a community or a space where such discussions are happening, or there is a exchange of idea which is happening, that helps the other person to evolve and take their next best option. Ideas are something that can only change, or only with an idea can someone actually move towards a better or the betterment of their designs. It is impossible to have infinite ideas from an individual, and that is why we are trying to kind of create the space where such ideas, discussions, access to materials, technologies which we have talked about for resource efficiency can happen. We see smaller communities which were very far away from like the modern landscape. They have survived in their own zone being very conscious, but technology has created a new change which has impacted the way how humans interact, and we are though connected, we are still the farthest at this particular point of time. In the one of the first slides where we introduced the concepts of the different types of resource efficiency, we talked about a period of time. Time might be linear. You would see like we can start off with the conception on the left hand corner. You see conception. From there, please take a anti-clockwise movement. Conception of a project, which means today I have thought of I want to kind of go ahead and bring a sustainable design or a house. I want a project. That is a concept phase of a building. At that time, I might choose the different resource efficiencies. That is where the best of the best ideas can happen when you are deciding upon it. The next part, after you have done your conception, you have decided upon the different materials, technologies, spaces, the things that you want to work on with, spoken with some professionals, or you might have done your own research to create or come back to that idea. You now move on to the next stage, which is the construction or the execution of that project. That too in itself is a space where you might be using resources. For example, to build a house, you would be having manpower who might be using a drill. That is fine, like it might be consuming some energy. Just as an example, they might be using water which is getting wasted because no one is being conscious about the water consumption which is happening. There might be materials which are coming as a waste while the construction is happening, which is just going into the construction and demolition dump area which is there. So construction phase is also a phase where the efficiencies can be thought of. The next part is the life cycle or the operation part, where individuals like you and me are going to use that space. That involves our electricity cost, that involves our water cost, that involves the space that we are living in, how we can maybe reduce the temperature, the different concepts of it. So that is also a place where resource efficiency plays an important part. And the last part is the end of our life. None of the buildings, none of the homes that we are creating lasts forever. There is a chance that after 30 years, 40 years, maybe many of our family heritage homes after 70 years, some of these buildings become so dilapidated, we don't know what to do with it. So today, what do we decide? How do we think about resource efficiency in that space? One of the very important lines which is there, which says that the best or the least amount of resource or the most sustainable building is one that is already built, which means if there is an existing building, when we talk about conservation, we are not building breaking it down. If that can be maintained, that is the most sustainable building, because you have not used any new resources for it. You have maybe used certain amounts of, you have used lesser resources. Let me just say, it cannot be maybe zero resource, you may have to upgrade it, but you might have to use lesser resources to it to upgrade. You might have to kind of remodel around it and take the idea forward. I did my master's from University of Glasgow. Glasgow as a town has buildings which were from 14th century, and they have conservation laws where the facade of the building, if they could preserve, they have kept it. It is not just for the material part; it might be about also the community. I would say connect part to it. If that is not possible, what happens when we are building or making a building today? The material choice we made on day one is going to end up either as a recyclable waste, which goes back to the earth. It's going to be something which just stays as a wastage, like we were talking about plastics, which we were the single-use plastics when we talk about, it just ends up being in our dump yard, where we create heaps and heaps of wastage. or it can be something that can be brought back into the system. And that is where the aluminium as a material has started coming in. Aluminium can be very easily malleable into a different product with minimum energy kind of a resource being spent on it, and be reused as a product into the system. So that is what we talk about, the different types of resource efficiency in the different phases of it.